What if you could find brand new worlds right here on Earth, where anything is possible? Same planet, different dimension. I found the gateway.
The Rewatch podcast presents the Sliders Rewatch, dedicated to the series Sliders on Fox and Sci-Fi Channel. Join us each week as we continue crossing the Einstein-Rosen-Podolsky Bridge and find ourselves in strange new worlds. Email your thoughts on each episode to the rewatchpodcast@gmail.com. Join us on Facebook at facebook.com/rewatchpodcast or on Twitter @rewatchpod.
And welcome back to the Rewatch podcast and our Sliders Rewatch. I am Cory.
And I'm an Eddie. So basically, it's going to be just Cory this episode as I sit here and stare at him creepily.
But how are you talking to me right now? This makes no sense.
Damn it.
I'm on to you. Well, thank you for joining us, everyone. As always, we're here discussing 2 more episodes of Sliders. This week it is California Reich and the Dying Field. So, before we get into anything, just a tiny bit of by the way.
Yeah, so basically, I talked about the thread on the Sliders.tv forums about Wade, how she answers our questions. Whatever we've mentioned here in the podcast, or actually people who have questions have asked her in the actual forums, and she answers in character, which is it's really cool. It's really fun to read. But I was wondering, because the whole thing started off with Intangible saying that she's been role-playing as Wade lately. And I'm wondering, Wade, or Intangible, where actually do you role-play as Wade? Like, is this like an online thing you do, or is this with like friends? Is it like Dungeons and Dragons? You know, that type of thing where you role-play a character? Because I'll tell you what, I like the idea of people getting together and role-playing like Sliders Adventures. You know, or anything like that, like any type of like sci-fi role-playing together. Because I had friends who were into Dungeons and Dragons when I was in like middle school, and I went with them one time to do it, and I just was not into it. Maybe it's just, I like the fantasy aspect, you know, dragons and knights, but I just was not into it. But I would be into like playing as a slider. I think that'd be really cool.
And maybe she's actually jumping through parallel worlds. And
maybe she is. That'd be awesome.
Wouldn't that just blow your freaking mind?
That would. So yeah, I'm just wondering, like, where does she do this? Like, how does she do it? You know, are there people role playing as Quinn and Arturo and all that? I'm fascinated. I want to know more. So there's that. And then also, I was wondering what your thoughts were about the picture that we posted on Facebook. You know, the article that came out before Sliders aired that showed a picture of supposedly Quinn Mallory and Rembrandt Brown, but it was definitely not Quinn and Remy.
That was just so weird.
Isn't it?
Like, what is up with that picture?
I know. And like you got the TV in the background showing, you know, a white kid and a black kid, and I was assuming that it was matching the two actors who are in front of it. So I don't know, like, are those stand-ins and they worked together before, or is it just a misplaced picture from an old sitcom, or what?
Yeah, I don't know. It's just bizarre. Like, I don't understand why they would print that, especially since Jerry O'Connell was cast in the role at this time.
Right.
I mean, you could maybe venture a guess to say that Cleavant hadn't been cast yet because his picture's not there,
right.
But still, like, I don't know. It's like just some sort of weird picture to sort of, I guess, maybe establish what it's looking like. I don't know. Reference image or something?
If anyone listening has not seen the picture, go to our Facebook page. And I don't know if you have to like the page in order to see the picture or not, but just like it. Look at that picture and let us know, where is that picture from? It looks like it's from an old sitcom or something. And I don't know. I've always wondered about that since the article came out back in whatever it was, 95, 96. So, yeah, check it out and let us know if you have any ideas.
Yeah, definitely. Because it's just bizarre. All right, well, getting into our first episode discussion today. The episode is California Reich. This was written by Scott Smith Miller and directed by Robert M. Williams Jr. This originally aired on August 24th of 1998.
Why didn't I think of that? Take on a whole bunch of guys with machine guns. A piece of angle iron. At least I didn't just stand there and watch. Who do you think you are, boy? I've been here a few more years than you have. I didn't get this far by acting like a damn fool. No, just by burying your head in the sand. You don't know anything. Now, I marched at Selma. I sat at the lunch counters. I had the dogs turned on me, the fire hoses, the tear gas. Now, don't tell me about sticking my head in the sand.
Well, excuse me, sir. I didn't know that.
Yeah, well, there's a lot you don't know. I'm all for standing up for what you believe in, but I'm not ready to become a martyr. I tried to do something once, and I got the scars to back me up. See? Look at all the good it did us.
So you just give up?
Look, times change. Politics change. Now, we keep our heads down, and it's all blow over eventually.
You really believe that? Can't you see where this is heading? They start out by deporting you, then what? You see how beat up these people are when they come in here? What about the ones who don't even make it this far? The ones that are left in dumpsters, left over in bean fields with their heads cracked open. No. Nothing. Nothing blows over.
As our sliders walk down the street of a new dimension, Remy is suddenly grabbed and thrown into the back of a van and taken away to the Repatriation Center, a prison camp for all minorities to stay in until they are processed into mindless mute drones called eddies who serve as a slave workforce. The population lives in bliss, receiving free unpaid work for their businesses and lifestyles, free of those who are, quote, impure, not realizing that the eddies are in fact actual humans and not mindless robots. Maggie, Quinn, and Colin discover that this dimension's California passed a law that made it legal to imprison anyone who is not 100% Caucasian, and in fact have a governor that is running for president on a platform of America for Americans, with apparently a huge amount of support. The trio meets the Chandler Hotel's owner Vanessa and her son Kirk, who is a member of a group called Stompers that round up minorities or migrants, as they call them. When Quinn tries to get in with the Stompers, a fight ensues with Kirk's mother getting caught in between and injured. They take her to the hospital despite her protests, and it's there they discover that she and Kirk are not 100% racially pure, and she is sent away to the Repatriation Center for processing. Quinn, Maggie, Colin, and Kirk break into the center to rescue Remy and Kirk's mother and escape with the help of a man Remy met named Harold, who has spent years in the prison, staying under the radar, not willing to stand up for his rights like he did in his youth until now. Our group slides with Kirk and Vanessa in tow, who has only been partially processed. Arriving on a new world, Remy asks an African-American doctor he sees if he's treated right and respected, and they decide it is a better world than where they came from and offer Kirk and his mom the chance to start over and make a new, better life for themselves.
This is your mother's blood work. Standard DNA test reveals some racial impurities.
Well, that's impossible.
We're required to notify the racial police. I'm going to have to ask you to wait here.
Oh, there's been a mistake. Run the tests again.
There is no mistake.
She is not a migrant, and neither am I.
Is your mother all right?
Kirk,
Stay away from me.
What's going on?
they ran some kind of DNA test on his mother's blood. They say she's not racially pure.
It's a lie.
Kirk, we gotta get out of here.
Then go. You know, I'm not afraid. I know who I am. I don't care what their tests say.
How many people have you rounded up who said the same thing? It's a lie. I'm not a migrant. Did you listen to them then? Will they listen to you now?
Quinn?
Alright, So we have a bit of trivia here.
We do. iReactions was kind enough to read through the old scripts and pick out things that are different from the actual film version. So thanks for that. We appreciate that. And there's really not too much here. The biggest thing really is probably Remy's rant about mass imprisonment and minorities. How he's like, this doesn't ever go away, I think he says, or something like that. It was a pretty good scene. That wasn't actually in the script, so that was added later. I thought it was a pretty good scene. I liked what he had to do there.
Yeah.
There was some extra dialogue between Colin and Quinn in one scene, but nothing, story changing, amazing, anything like that. And also, instead of Remy punching the guard at the rally to get in to see the governor, Quinn actually comes up and tases him. So it's a little change there, but nothing that really makes a big difference. This last one, it's interesting. It's going to come up later in the discussion because I want to talk about this. The African-American doctor that we see at the end was originally supposed to be a nurse, African-American nurse, and it was specifically said in the script that it should be an African-American nurse. And the doctor was going to be a double of the white doctor that we saw on Racist World, where he said, call the RPs or whatever. So it was going to be his double on this world.
That would be a weird way to go.
It's kind of interesting because we get we get doubles, and you can see how they might freak out because this was the doctor that just, pulled the plug out on him on the other world. So, seeing him again, be like, what the heck? And it would hammer it in to Kirk and his mother that this is a totally different world because they'd be like, that's the guy that just turned us in. But no, he's going to help you now. Because it's a different world. So it might have been neat to see that. But like I said, we'll talk a little bit more about.
We'll get into that. Well, do we have time for a quick impression before we move on?
I believe we do. I believe.
Looking at the clock.
Okay.
Yeah, okay then. All right. Cue the music.
Arturo, a 1940s gangster, and a hick are looking at a synthetic human. Oh, this is just weird. The gangster pokes at it. Don't touch it.
It's warm, see?
Is it human? I don't know. Hey, man, can you understand me? The synthetic man continues his duties unfazed. Maybe it's some kind of genetically engineered worker. I don't know. Well, whatever it is, we'll have to think about it later.
Christopher?
They're long gone by now. Well, we have to get back to the Chandler because if he gets loose, he'll expect us to be there.
We've got to keep searching, huh?
We're not going to get very far in a stolen delivery truck.
We can't just leave him here, see?
We're not going to be much help to Christopher if we get busted for Grand Theft Auto. Now, don't worry, we're not going anywhere without Christopher. Let's get out of here. And see.
Maybe a little hiccup there in the middle, but
that's okay.
Not bad.
That's what makes it fun for quick impressions.
I know that I'm not the man that you expected to see tonight. A migrant. Someone whom you don't consider to be a real American. Even though I was born in this country just like you. There's a woman that I want all of America to see. Another migrant. Her name is Vanessa. She was taken to one of Governor Schick's relocation camps. The camps that you approved under Prop 286. In a few hours, processing would have been complete. Vanessa would have been part of Schick's unpaid labor force. Part of his plan for economic recovery.
Cut him off, now.
Eddies are not synthetic. They're human beings like Vanessa was once. People who have been mutilated by Schick's butchers. Schick must be stopped.
It's a lie. A migrant lie. That's what they're up to. They're trying to fool you. These people will stop at nothing.
All right, so getting into our discussion of California Reich. I need to say this off the bat.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a pretty chill guy, right? I'm not too into politics or anything like that. I'm a very live and let live kind of person. If you're not hurting anybody, go for it, man.
Okay.
If there is one thing in this world that boils my blood to the core, it's racism.
Oh, yeah, definitely. For sure.
Oh, man, this episode just, ooh, gets me riled up.
Yeah, it was a good episode. I enjoyed this episode. It really is, yeah.
I can see what they're doing here. I mean, we were talking, back over the Cro-Mag episodes that they seem to have this theme going of trying to see the similarities in each other rather than the differences.
Right.
We saw it in Common Ground. We saw it in Slide Cage. Here, I think they're doing a full-on human race-based racial story to sort of really imprint that idea onto us going forward.
Right.
I don't know how you feel. Is that kind of what you were getting from this?
Yeah. It reminded me, there was that one episode that we watched where, was it the Health World? It was something where Remy, it seemed very forced what Remy was talking about, like segregation or something like that.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, no, it was that Species ripoff one.
Was that the one? Okay.
Yeah, and they just randomly started talking about racism he was talking about how people were being put down or something. Why do they take it?
Right,
weird.
exactly. And like this one, this one handles it a lot better. It feels more natural. Like I said, it's much better done than that episode.
Oh, without a doubt. Because from the get-go, we've got just blatant racism.
Oh, yeah.
They're walking down the street. They're just minding their own business, talking about getting some quick cash. But hey, Remy can't find any R&B clubs.
Right, exactly.
Nearby. There's nothing in the paper, no quick jobs. And he's just dragged off the street. Mm-hmm. Just hauled away in a van.
No questions.
God, I can't stand it. I really can't.
Well, yeah, even when the Asian man was getting beat up in the beginning, it's
that's right, yeah.
It's like, oh my God, come on. And the whole thing is, I would be right in there. I'd be right in the camps with everybody else because my mother is Japanese. So
right.
I'd be right there with him. I'd be like in the processing center or whatever.
I know. There's a whole thing where he says, please, I have a family.
Yeah.
And he looks at the guy's wallet and he's looking at a picture and it looks like his wife is white, not Asian. Mm-hmm. And he says, oh, well, that changes everything. I think we'll need to pay them a visit too.
Exactly.
And he's like, oh, man, so these people aren't just like so racist that they hate people who aren't white.
Right.
But they also hate people who are married to people who aren't white.
Or sympathize with them. Yep. I know.
There's no words. Seriously, I just can't stand it.
Well, no, yeah, it brings me to mind of this of a Quantum Leap episode that I saw where it's a similar type thing, but on a much smaller scale, where Sam leaps into a sailor who has married a Japanese woman while he was away on duty, and when they come back home to his little country, town, small town, the wife encounters so much, because she's Japanese, just like it's terrible what they do to her. And like I said, with my mother being Japanese, it's like it hits me on a whole different level. It's like, oh my God, did my mother have to go through this when she came back, to my town? It's like, oh, I can't imagine.
I know, I can't imagine. And, it's that whole thing too, like when they get into it, all this America for Americans nonsense, the fact that like a lot of the people that they call migrants, and they're just migrants because they're not white.
Right.
They're born in America, so they are Americans.
Yep.
Regardless of their skin color, their race, whatever. Mm-hmm. And the fact that also that there was no Hitler on this world.
Right.
They get into the theological discussion of, if you could go back in time, would you go and kill young Hitler? Or is the world actually better off because of the experience?
Right.
Have we learned from our mistakes by having such a vicious person come into power at a certain point?
Well, yeah, exactly.
In our history, it's a double-edged blade, really. Mm-hmm. But an interesting theological look at it.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
But, as we get into the episode, they chase after the van that's taken Remy. Mm-hmm. They lose them, but they come across these eddies, these drones.
Right.
Which, at first look of it, you could just think it's just a weird quirk of the world, you know, a weird old history that they've
Right.
got these robots that do work for them. And then the way that they sort of weave them into the story
Yeah.
is also very interesting. It's like a modern look at like what could happen if the events of like Hitler's reign took place today.
Right.
In a way, you know. I've been to Auschwitz myself. And it's a very haunting place. I mean, I was brought to tears just walking around there. But it's that kind of thing where they took Jewish people and they sort of segregated and killed them, all that horrible stuff.
Right.
So, you know, what's something that they could put into the episode which sort of conveys that? I mean, sure, you could just have them go into camps and have them killed and stuff like that. That's got to be impactful. But we're still talking about a sci-fi show here.
Right.
So I think this idea of actually, for all intensive purposes, killing people and then turning them into these mindless drones is actually really horrific and pretty impactful for the episode.
Oh yeah, I don't remember if I've seen this episode originally. It seemed pretty new to me, and I didn't remember a lot of it. And the Eddies were like, I was like, whoa. And I was like looking at it, and I'm thinking, at first I know that we were supposed to think the way they put it forth is that they're like robots, you know, because they don't feel. You don't have to worry about talking to them or bumping into them. It's not a big deal. But I got the feeling really quickly that those are not just drones. Those are actual people in there or something. But my question about the Eddies, is that just a local California thing, or is that something they have in place around all of this nation in this dimension? Is that all around the place, or is it just here in California?
Thinking about it, I think it could just be California.
Okay.
Because it seems that this guy, Schick, is the governor of California.
Right.
And he's running for president. And what he has done is pass the Racial Repatriation Act. And they're rounding up all these migrants, as they call them. And putting them in the condos, quote unquote. It's pretty much just a prison. It's an Auschwitz, pretty much.
Right.
You know, even there they have a really an amazingly impactful scene where Harold is actually going through all the people's clothes. They had taken all the clothes and they're using that. They're selling the clothes in order to pay back society for what they had taken. And so, man, because I've seen a lot of movies about the Nazis too, and they would do the same thing, down to like ripping fillings out of people's teeth.
Oh, wow.
In order to sell the gold and whatever.
I didn't know that.
Horrible stuff.
Right.
But yeah, you know, I think this world that they create is actually really impactful.
Oh, yeah.
And you can really see that Cleavant is giving it his all as well. You can imagine for a man, an African-American man, that this subject has got to be really close to him. So he obviously wants to do it justice.
Yeah, he said somewhere, I think I read it on earthprime.com, or I think iReactions may have said something about it. Cleavant was not super happy with a lot of Sliders in these later seasons, but this is an episode that he was glad that he had the chance to do, you know, because it did, you know, touch home for him. So yeah, he definitely gives it his all in this episode. Like, he's been giving it his all lately, like in everything. So it's awesome.
Yeah.
Now, speaking of that Racial Repatriation Act, this is a world that they've created for Sliders, but there was a proposition that was passed, you know, on our world in California back in the early 90s. And I've read about this on earthprime.com. It was called Prop 187. And the basic idea was, and this actually passed, this went through to law, if you were an illegal alien in California, you were not allowed, because of this Prop 187, to use non-emergency health care, public education, anything funded by the people. You were not allowed to use if you were an illegal alien in California. Now, it was overturned later on because it was ruled unconstitutional, but that is like very similar to what's going on here in this world here. It's not impossible to think that this world, without a Hitler, sort of went off the rails, and that's how this whole Racial Repatriation Act came about, because he, you know, Schick has a lot of support for, you know, for his act and his becoming president, and people are saying that he's going to be the new guy. So, you know, just drawing the parallels between art versus life, you know, it's interesting that Prop 187 that actually passed. I didn't really remember much about it back in the time because I didn't live in California. I didn't watch the news. I was in college. Actually, I might have been in high school by then. But yeah, I wasn't really aware of it until now.
Right.
It's crazy that passed.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, wow.
It's terrifying to think. You know, in this, in the condos, in the workhouse, they've got this whole system as well of sending people for processing. Like, they can separate them out into two groups, right?
Yes.
It seemed that Harold had been there for quite some time, so...
Yeah, all right, I don't get this. Now, some people are sent, you know, into the condos, and some people are sent away to process. And the people in the condos, they're put to work, I guess, in the prison, because Harold, who's there, says something like he needs another man on his work detail, you know, trying to save, you know, Remy from being beaten up and sent away. But, like, why wouldn't you just process everybody and then use them as the work detail?
Well, I think by the end of it, too, like, it wasn't known at all that these eddies were made up of migrants.
Right.
So I think if they just went ahead and processed them all into eddies, I guess people might get a bit sus on the whole thing.
Okay. All right.
And it's an odd thing to do. I mean, they try to explain it as it's part of Schick's economic recovery program.
Right.
That there's this unpaid labor force. But, like, why do this? It just takes it to an even sicker level. Like,
yeah.
He's managed to get all these people on his side about, you know, getting rid of migrants. But then pretty much taking them and, for all intensive purposes, murdering them. Now, I understand like, Hitler was responsible for a lot of that himself.
Right.
But, yeah, like, why do this and why hide it from the people? You know, he was on top. Like, he was going to win.
Right.
If something like this was going to jeopardize his winning as president, then why do it? Like... Is it just because Schick gets sick pleasure out of this or something? It's bizarre.
I don't know. Like, the whole processing gives them free labor. So, I mean, does that... There was a whole thing on the Messages in Time that I saw. Well, actually, it wasn't a whole thing. It was just the one comment about, you know, how they want to get rid of the migrants. So that frees up jobs for Americans. But then they just fill those jobs with the eddies. So it's like... It's not even like bringing jobs back to Americans, really. So, yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, it's kind of backwards thinking. It's all well and good to say that, oh, migrants took all our jobs, and now look, hey,
right.
Suddenly there's more than enough jobs for all us white Americans.
Right.
But it seems that there isn't enough white Americans to fill every job that needs to be done.
I guess so.
It really makes no sense. The whole thing is backwards thinking. And quite frankly, it's probably not supposed to make sense. You know, these people are backward-ass weirdos who have no idea what they're talking about. So, yeah. I mean, I think they're trying to bring these issues to the forefront, you know?
Right.
And like I said, I don't think it's supposed to make sense because in real life, it doesn't make sense to do this.
Well, yeah. Yeah, I don't know why he would make these eddies. I didn't think about it until now. But yeah, it doesn't really make much sense for him to do this because if he didn't do this, he'd be getting elected because he had such great support. You know, it's only the fact that this, you know, came up that people, you know, decide against him then.
And we get into another side of things with the rest of the gang because they're at the Chandler and they meet the owner of the Chandler, Vanessa, and her son Kirk. And Kirk has fallen in with a group that call themselves the Stompers.
Right.
And they're the group that goes out and pretty much drags the migrants off the streets. That's what they do. The term stomper is interesting because there is, I mean, like a lot of people would know the movie American History X,
okay.
Right?
I haven't seen it, but I've heard of it.
It's, it's pretty much about, you know, white people being racist.
Right.
And here in Australia, they made one called Romper Stomper with Russell Crowe.
Okay.
And same thing. Instead of white people being racist against black people, it was white people being racist against Asians in Melbourne, in Australia. Really good movie, really good performances. So, yeah, so it's just what it made me think of, this term stomper that they used. It's a very descriptive word, I think, because of what they do. They don't just get migrants to deport them. They beat the shit out of them.
Yeah, they do.
It's disgusting.
Yep.
So, yeah, it's just, it continually takes it to another level as it goes on. But the big thing is that Quinn tries to go and get some information from them. They think he's a reporter. They get in a big brawl. And during the brawl, Vanessa gets injured by Kirk.
Yeah.
And while she's in the hospital, they find that she isn't, quote-unquote, racially pure.
Right. Which, you know, I mean, I can't imagine that many people in America would be racially pure, like, in this day and age. Like, it would just, yeah, it'd be near impossible, you know, to find someone who's racially pure. But, yeah. No, I thought this was good. It was a good twist.
Yeah, because now Kirk he's been confronted with the fact that he has been a bigot for a long time, and now is suddenly faced with that bigotry himself.
Well, yeah, because if she's impure, then he's naturally impure as well.
I think when the Sliders are trying to make him understand that he's the same person now as he always was. He has the same blood in his veins now that he did that morning, that you are the same person. And he seems to struggle with the idea that he is what he hates. You know, it's coming... It's almost like self-loathing, you know. Can he hate himself now?
Right.
Or can he finally understand that what is happening here is not right? Again, great themes for the episode. I mean, it's full on. I have to say, this is really full on for Sliders.
Yes.
And I was getting angrier the more I was watching it. But
yeah.
At least they're tackling these issues and they're not afraid to get into it, because, like I said, they've been talking about these issues in relation to the Cro-Mags and the war the Cro-Mags are waging against humans, and to sort of take those themes and give it to us blatantly in a real life aspect.
Yeah, they don't back away.
It's interesting that they're bringing it up now, like why they didn't do this earlier and then wean us into the Cro-Mag story.
Yeah.
As kind of like a setup for it, rather they do the opposite and then suddenly get into this race issue thing, and then we're going to get back into the Cro-Mags. Weird choice, but still.
Yeah.
The gang get together and they decide that the plan is to pretty much expose Schick and everything he does, because Kirk decides he's going to go and assassinate Schick. Like, that's where he gets to in his own mind. You can see the logic there. Like, when you're suddenly confronted with something like Kirk was, that you would be naturally angry. But I think the idea that the guys say, like, that's not going to solve anything. If you kill him, he'll be a martyr. There'll be somebody else there to take his place.
Exactly.
Again, it's that Hitler thing. If someone just assassinated Hitler straight up at the peak of his popularity, then things could have turned out a lot different. You know, it's more about letting events play out and making sure that people know the whole truth.
Oh, yeah.
In order to bring him down.
Well,
so
that comes up in Messages in Time, too. There was a whole discussion about that.
So they get Vanessa, who has began the processing thing. We find out that processing means that they're taken to become Eddies. She's like half done, half her face, and they expose her on live TV. Well, Remy actually does it too, so that's a good call, getting Remy to take care of that.
She's like half transformed, okay? And I wondered about this, about the Eddies. Like, are they dumbed down, or are they mind controlled, or what happens to their mind? Because she's still her, but she can't seem to speak. She can't seem to, like, communicate at all with them besides looking at them at this point. So, like, is there something with the Eddies that mind controls them? Because she had that little circle on the side of her head now, you know, where she was being transformed into the Eddie. Like, I wondered, like, are they just, like, programmed now? Like, once they go through the processing, are they sort of programmed to just do certain tasks, or can they change that up, or what? Like, what's the deal with that? Because they seem to be good at very simple tasks, you know, and even though she's only halfway there, she wasn't too communicative with the rest of the people there.
I think that side of it was a bit underdeveloped. They didn't really get into it quite a lot. But yeah, I would imagine that they've done something, some sort of mechanical implant in the brain or something to sort of
because she still
bring them down to a base level.
It's like she still has control of half of her mouth. She could sort of speak out of the side a little bit to communicate, you know, or at least motion with her hands. But she seems kind of like just mindless already, you know, even though she's only halfway through, she already seems gone.
And the makeup for like the half processing was a bit weird. Like, why would they stitch that patch down half her face? Like, when we see the Eddies, they've got no mouth. They've got this silvery skin.
Exactly.
Why did they just sew that one patch on the side of her face with the little, I guess, chip or something in the side of the head? Like, it was weird that they would sort of do that.
Yeah.
instead of like completing the whole process all at once.
Mm-hmm. Well, I guess they, of course, they just wanted to show that she was only half done. But yeah, overall, it wouldn't really make sense to have it look like that.
And what do you think about the end? That they reveal all this, but then Kirk and Vanessa slide with them.
Well, I was like, okay, so Remy goes on TV and he reveals all this. The only reactions we see are the people who are there at the rally for Schick. I don't think that him making this speech in front of a bunch of Schick supporters would change their mind as much as it did at this rally, because they immediately kind of turn on Schick there at the rally. But like in real life, people who support that kind of person would like deny that this was true. They would like be saying, no, he's just lying. It's just, it's a attempt by the liberals to, make us look bad and try to, cause him to lose the race. But they switched really quickly at the end there. I thought that was just very convenient. Like, oh yeah, oh that's right. He's bad. Schick is bad. Let's change our mind. Like it just seemed too quick to me. Because I mean, like you look at the political landscape today and people are, even in the face of like actual facts where you can show them the actual document of something, like they say, oh, it's fake, or that doesn't mean this, or that means that. So I thought it was odd that they would change their minds so quickly.
The fact that Kirk and Vanessa slide with them too, you think they would have to stick around now? Like, Vanessa has become a symbol for change.
Right.
And then she immediately disappears.
Mm-hmm.
You're not really helping your cause by suddenly disappearing now.
Right.
And the fact that Kirk is given a brand new life with his mother on a parallel world is kind of unsatisfying too, because he started as a stomper. He was in with the stompers. He was out there hurting migrants.
Right.
Maybe even killed some. We don't know.
Yeah, we don't.
So he gets a brand new life on another world? No, I think he should have to stick around and deal with the decisions he's made.
Right, right.
And continue to be a force for change himself.
Right. I think because you want the consequences for, his actions. I think the idea is that the consequence is that his mother is now not like, she's not the woman she was. She's been changed completely. So he's going to spend the rest of it. I mean, they could fix her face, but I don't know about the whole mind control thing, or if they can get her brain back. So he's going to spend the rest of his life caring for her. And it's going to be a constant reminder of that he's the reason this happened, so it's like that personal torture type thing, that's where he gets his consequences from. What confused me about that was Quinn says something to him about this might make you a media sensation. I don't understand why he said that. Why would this make him a media sensation, and why would he even want to be a media sensation about this particular thing?
Yeah, honestly, I don't even think he was talking about the fact that his mother was the way she was.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's more the fact that they slid out in front of everybody.
I guess, but they're never going to be able to prove that. It's like you got the one doctor who saw it, and that was it. It's like I don't know how that would make him a media sensation either, because it could just be like the stories of like people who say, "Oh, I saw a UFO," or "Oh, I was abducted by aliens," "Oh, I saw Bigfoot." There's no real proof, so it's like what? That was just a weird line.
Yeah, at the same time, like Vanessa has all this stuff done to her,
Right.
so I think if a respected doctor was just like, these people like came in through a vortex and then left this woman here and asked us to fix her.
Right.
And then left again. So, I don't know. I think you could take that guy at his word a bit,
Yeah.
It would be a bit of a media blowout. Suddenly, interdimensional travelers came from another world to get surgical help.
Right.
Or
See,
something. It's just-
I would
it'd be
say,
weird.
that in real life, if this had happened, like they would just chalked it up to be like a miracle. That's it. We don't need to discuss it. We don't need to investigate it because it's not going to happen again. But if they had stayed, if Kirk and Vanessa had stayed on their world, then I could see the comment fitting, because obviously they would be a media sensation,
Yeah.
So I'm wondering if this was just a line that they forgot to cut, like they didn't have a better line to end with, because it fits much more, on Racist World, where they were exposed on live TV, rather than this world where no one knows who they are. And, maybe I don't know. I just thought maybe it's just a line that didn't belong in there.
No, I can agree. It is a bit strange. Yeah, the ending I think let me down a bit. I kind of wish that they hadn't gone to another world.
Right.
I wish that they had stayed there and Kirk had taken responsibility. So, you know, it's a good episode. It's got great themes. It's got some fantastic acting, again, especially from Cleavant. But that ending kind of just let me down.
Well, you know, speaking of the ending, you know, I read a couple other reviews, you know, of the episode. And one thing that I was like, what? I was like confused by the world that they go to at the end. One review I read over at earthprime.com said that they slide into a world now populated slowly by African Americans. It's an all black world. And I was like, oh, well, yeah. I was like, that's interesting. And like, I was like, I didn't think about that. But then I went back and I'm like, well, no, wait. Why would this be an all black world? Just because you landed in a hospital and you saw like 3 or 4 people that were, you know, black. Why would you assume that the whole world is populated by black people? I'm like, that's weird. So I went back and I looked at it, and there is at least a patient. There's a white patient that walks by in that scene at the very end. Right. And then I'm thinking, and like, how do you know that this isn't like in a particular part of California where it's just the population is highly African American? Why would why assume that? Like, that's like what Quinn did when he went back. You know, when they thought they went back to like primitive times or whatever, and they said, oh, this whole world must be primitive or whatever, just based on this one little group. I thought that was weird. And then, like I said earlier, we have that deleted scene where you were supposed to have the white doctor from the last world. And so that kind of proved that they weren't thinking that this was going to be an all black world that they slid into. It was just going to be a world, you know, maybe similar to ours where, you know, people are treated equally. Well, theoretically, they're treated equally. So
it's an interesting interpretation from whoever was thinking that.
Right. Yeah. I thought it was odd.
Agree.
I was like,
Yeah.
Because I didn't think, like, even when they slid in and obviously you saw the African American doctor, I didn't automatically think, oh, now they're in a world completely populated that way. And I'm like, no, I don't think so.
But yeah, I liked this episode. I thought it was fantastic.
Yeah, it was. I had a good time with it. I mean, it's a very heavy topic to tackle, and they just, like you said, they tackle it right on.
And now it's time for another episode of Tech Talk with Quid Mallory.
What's the composition of the laser? Tell me, or you lose your knee!
You won't.
Try me!
This has been another episode of Tech Talk with Quinn Mallory. So getting into our second episode discussion today, the episode is The Dying Fields, written by William Bigelow, directed by David Peckinpah.
Dun, dun, dun.
This originally aired August 31st of 1998.
I tracked this one. He was my kill.
He was, but you didn't get a shot off.
Because you didn't give me a chance to. And you already had one kill today.
Are you pouting, Cryoptus? How terribly human of you.
I was speaking the truth. I didn't know that was considered human.
The truth is, I fired the shot. This kill is mine. Those are the rules.
You think I don't know the rules? If I don't take a human suit, General Kronos will banish me.
You'll get your kills, but I get this one's numbers.
Take the eyes.
No.
General Kronos' orders.
It's my kill. I haven't developed a taste for them.
How terribly human of you.
Our sliders find themselves in the middle of a hunting ground where human/Cro-Mag hybrids try to hone their warrior skills by hunting pure-breed humans stolen away from their homeworlds to act as living targets, hoping they can stand alongside elite full Cro-Mag soldiers in the everlasting Cro-Mag human war. Our group comes across a small band of humans who have been in hiding, but one member, rallied up by Maggie and Remy's urgings, shows them to the HuMag's headquarters only to be killed shortly thereafter, and Colin and the Timer as well, of course, are abducted by Cryoptus and Kira, two of the Cro-Mag's best HuMag warriors. Maggie, Quinn, and Remy attempt a jailbreak, but manage instead to get Remy shot and injured while capturing Kyra. As he lays there dying from radiation, Quinn appeals to Kyra's human side of compassion, to which she responds bonds and uses her Cro-Mag side mental healing techniques to save Remy. Meanwhile, Colin has managed to escape his confinement and save the timer, reuniting with his friends. Kyra opts not to join them in their slide, deciding to try and appeal to Cryoptus' human side, but instead ends up being killed by him as our sliders slide.
Who are you?
Who are you?
People who just took your weapon, so drop the attitude.
Okay. My name's Jenny Anderson.
I'm Quinn. It's my brother Colin. That's Maggie. That's Rembrandt.
You must be newbies. Where are your tattoos? We don't have tattoos. All the humans have tats. Where did you come from?
We kind of lost our way and stumbled into this place.
Yeah? Well, my advice is to stumble back out. This is a limited stay kind of resort. It's limited by those knuckle draggers with the laser guns.
Pro-Max.
Whatever. All I know is they shoot first and they never ask questions.
How'd you get here?
I was asleep in bed one night and this bright light shined in through my window. Next thing I knew, I was being dragged out in this crazy spaceship. I figured I'd get probed and I'd wind up on the Jerry Springer show, but instead, it's aliens safari time and I'm the endangered species.
So they're hunting you?
Me and 6 other freaked out people. They slapped tattoos on our arms, gave us each a piece, and cut us loose. If we can survive 20 days, then we can go home. I'm on day 18.
Did you know a guy with a blonde buzz cut? About 6 feet?
Sure. It's Jake, insurance guy from Michigan. You seen him? He's dead?
I'm afraid so.
Takes us down to 6.
Where are the others?
Hiding out in some bombed-out building. I'll be stoked to see reinforcements. So, are we friends or are we enemies? Come on.
So our reactions has sent us a little bit of trivia.
Yeah, and again, maybe the reason why a lot of these changes aren't on dimensionofcontinuity.com like the original first couple seasons are, is there's really not a whole lot of major changes. It's just little slight additions. Like the beginning of this episode was just a little bit longer when they're chasing the man down and shooting him, but nothing like incredibly crazy, you know. Quinn, instead of threatening to break Kyra's knee, actually threatens to break her ankle. So this is another body part. There's a slightly longer conversation with Colin and Cryoptus while he's captured, but again, nothing story changing. And at the end, Cryoptus decides instead of stabbing Kyra, he's going to shoot her. So it's like little slight changes, but nothing that's going to like change the story, or nothing even like that's like, oh, that's pretty cool. Why didn't they shoot that? Nothing like that.
Right. They'll probably change just because of we're framing the scene like this. So instead of her ankle, you're going to try and hit her knee.
Right. Exactly.
Because we've got you framed from the waist up or something.
Yeah.
Oh well. Well, I think we can fit in just one quick reaction here. I think.
Quick impression?
I think we have the time. Quick reaction. Quick impression. I think we could just if we make it real quick.
Okay, let's do it.
Cue the music.
Hick, a 1940s gangster, and Jerry Seinfeld exit the vortex.
Where's Sean Connery, sir? He's looking to perfect his technique.
Oh, good God. Sean Connery flies out of the vortex, knocking over Jerry.
Oh,
I'm sorry I didn't see you.
because you weren't looking where you were going. I told you, you've got to keep your eyes open when you're sliding through the vortex.
I'm hearing Remy there. I'm hearing... Okay. Look, I've been a horse and buggy man most of my life. Warp speed's a new concept for me.
Yeah? Well, you'll get hip to it. I just hope I survive your learning curve.
Okay, you guys, where are we?
The Garden of Eden?
Listen up. And scene. I don't know.
You're not liking my Jerry? I told you I'd work on it last week.
Okay. Well, you know what?
I thought I'd give it a go.
We give you points for giving it a go.
Do you enjoy watching people struggle?
When I see a human, they usually do not struggle for long. Human behavior is inexplicable. Even if you get those restraints off, you will still be imprisoned by the force barrier.
My mother always told me hope springs eternal.
Your mother?
Yes.
Explain to me, who is Mother?
You don't know who your mother is?
My interaction with humans is limited.
Limited to killing them?
I asked you a question, human.
Maybe you have a different word for it. Your mother is the woman who gave birth to you, who raised you.
I was born in a breeding colony. I was raised to serve the dynasty.
Breeding colony?
Yes.
You're half human.
I was bred from a human female.
Yes. Your mother.
The human female was simply used as a vessel for my incubation. An unfortunate necessity.
It's barbaric.
More barbaric than the vicious weapon you humans use to drive us from our world?
What are you talking about?
The residual effects left Cro-Mag women genetically mutated. 2 days after giving birth, a Cro-Mag woman dies. A death sentence for our species. The dynasty had no other choice but to crossbreed. You created us, not the Cro-Mags.
Well, getting into our discussion of the dying fields, we get into it pretty quickly here.
Mm-hmm.
The Cro-Mag human hybrid. An interesting aspect,
right,
of the Cro-Mag story. We've got a lot of stuff to do with the Cro-Mags and their war.
Mm-hmm.
We know that Wade was taken away to a breeding camp, something that really stuck with you and I.
Yes.
We felt didn't have to happen.
Nope.
But what we're going to see here is kind of the product
yes,
of those breeding camps. So we have these Cro-Mag human hybrids, and they are being trained to hunt humans.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting idea. What do you reckon?
Well, I don't remember this episode at all. Like I said, most of these fourth season episodes, maybe I've seen once, and I'm pretty sure that I've never seen this one before. So I think it's an interesting idea because they introduce why they have these breeding camps. Because we're like, why would they need breeding camps? Why would they take, the women off, to these camps just to be continually, used, for reproduction purposes? What's the deal with that? Why would they do that? This explains why, because they, had that ultimate weapon that they're looking for, mutated the Cro-Mag women, so that they die after giving birth. So the fact that they're going to have hybrids now, the Humags as they call them, it makes sense that they're not going to be the same as the aggressive Cro-Mag. So now they have to find a way to train them to be soldiers in the Cro-Mag army, because it seems like that's all the Cro-Mags do. They just conquer. They're a conquering race. So these hybrids have to be, brought up to par with the rest of full-blooded Cro-Mag. So it makes sense that they have training facilities for them, I think.
I think the interesting thing I find here, because, I go ahead and I do my little bit of background research first.
Mm-hmm.
I get the name of the episode, I get who wrote it, I get who directed
right.
it. And I put all that into the notes, ready to take down my discussion notes when I watch the episode.
Yeah.
So if I went into this not knowing that it was directed by David Peckinpah,
mm-hmm.
I would have guessed this was all Mark Scott Zickery. Because you and I had talked about how Zickery was very keen on trying to explain things properly. Like, he didn't want to really listen to Peckinpah.
Right.
Because of his stupid notes and stuff like that.
Yep.
So why didn't he come up with this idea, or why didn't he direct or something like that?
Mm-hmm.
Instead, we've got a writer that we've never seen before, William Bigelow,
right.
and director David Peckinpah, delving deeper into this idea of the breeder camps
right.
and the purpose for these breeder camps, and giving us an explanation about the Cro-Mag women, because we haven't seen Cro-Mag women. This is the closest we've gotten to a Cro-Mag woman before,
mm-hmm.
in Kyra.
Kyra.
And she's half human, so yeah, it's weird that it's Peckinpah doing this.
Well, this is this story was written by William Bigelow. Bill Bigelow. Look at that. Bill Bigelow. Hey, I'm Bill Bigelow. Basically, this was Mark Zickery's story idea. So he pitched the story idea of the breeder camps because he wanted to explain what happened with Wade. He never wanted Wade to go out to a breeder camp. And this all comes, iReaction sent us this information from Dimension of Continuity. Temporal Flux is the guy who's in charge over there. And he sent us this stuff from him. He gathered all this information over the years. Temporal Flux actually met with Mark Zickery, and they talked about all these things, which is kind of cool that he actually got to meet him, you know, and like pick his brain about things. But yeah, this was Zickery's attempt to try to solve the whole Wade thing, because when Peckinpah wrote in that she went to a breeder camp, Zickery was like, all right, we're going to have to resolve this. We can't just let that go out there. This is a very popular character, been on the show for 3 seasons. We're just going to send her off like that? No. So, you know, he had an idea, you know, about trying to explain why there were breeder camps, because there was just, David Peckinpah didn't know. He just said, send her off to a breeder camp, let her be raped. You know, it's like, what an ass, you know? So Zickery's like, I got to fix this. So this was his attempt to fix it. So he pitched the idea, and they gave it to William Bigelow to, you know, actually flesh out and write the whole episode. And Zickery, his idea was to have Sabrina Lloyd guest star, you know, either in an episode, or even just have the characters reference her, you know, like other characters reference her by name, saying that she actually escaped or something, or got out safely, basically, is what his idea was. But the, you know, Peckinpah and Bigelow, or not Bigelow, Bill Dial, the other producer, they denied, like they just fought back and forth on rewrites for the scripts. You know, once they were done, there was no adding in lines about Wade or anything trying to resolve that at all. They just went back and forth. And that's why we don't get much with Wade at all. Like, we have this story about the breeder camps, but we just get a mention of Wade, and we don't really resolve it. So that's where this comes from. It is Mark Zickery's attempt to try to fix things, to try to explain. But Peckinpah and Bill Dial just like, no, this is good enough. We'll take this story and we'll film it. That's good. You know, forget about the whole other thing you're talking about.
There you go.
Yeah.
It's still a bizarre concept, though, because we know that the Cro-Mags despise humans. You know, it was set up in Invasion. The fact that they came up with sliding, they were sliding from world to world, and all they found was humans, and they just despised humanity. And I guess, like, the explanation they come up with, it's kind of like a necessity. Cro-Mag women would die after giving birth, so that pretty much means to every female Cro-Mag, there is only one other Cro-Mag that can be born.
Right.
So they have no choice. If they want to continue breeding, then they've got to do it with humans. But, you know, they still kind of treat the Humags, as they're called, kind of like lower life forms or slaves. Like, they really get down on them. And I kind of like the idea that they've got this human hunting ground, sort of trying to teach them to hunt humans, you know, try to really push the Cro-Mag side of them. Yet, you know, from the get-go, there's the whole thing about Cryoptus telling Kyra to take out the eyes. You know, we're getting back to the thing, they like to eat human eyes. It's kind of gross. And she won't do it.
Right.
She says she hasn't developed a taste for it. And you kind of get that inkling from the get-go that she almost can't even bring herself to, like, deform a human corpse.
Oh, yeah.
You know, that's kind of what I got from her. I'm sure she cuts off his hand, but I still think there was that, like, rather than, like, she doesn't want to eat them, it's just, like, she doesn't even want to cut them out of his skull. Yeah, I mean, it's an interesting aspect, and I think they're explaining it the best they can, and they do an all right job at it.
Yeah, Kyra is definitely the more interesting character of the two Humags that we meet. Cryoptus is, he is just like a big old whiner, you know, and I guess that's how they wrote him, but the actor does not do a very good job portraying this guy at all. Like, he has one level. You know, his level is whine about everything. You know, he's like, that was my kill. I wanted to kill him. I deserve this and that. Even later on when other things happen, he's always just whining about what has happened. It's like, you know, just, it's too much. Relax. Take it down. Take it down a notch there.
Yeah, he's also a big suck up as well, because he ended up taking the eyes and giving them to the General Cronus.
Yeah, it's like, do you like, you know, Kyra or not? Because that wasn't real cool, man.
Yeah, it's kind of weird because they kind of set up Cryoptus as not having killed a human before, like ever.
Right.
Whereas Kyra is like top of the leaderboard, so much so that she's almost at elite warrior status.
Right.
Like they are ready to put her on the front lines
Right.
as an elite warrior of the Cro-Mags.
Yeah. See, I thought that he had killed, but I just thought that he wasn't as good. Like he was lower on the leaderboards. I thought he had still killed, but just not as high as Kyra was.
I'm not sure. I think it's a bit confusing,
Yeah.
really. But, on the other side, they meet up with people who have been brought there for hunting. And they kind of try to tie it into alien abduction stories, which I think was kind of cool.
Yeah, I mean, that works.
Yeah, they meet up with Jenny, who is played by Meredith Bishop. Now, I don't know if you ever watched Alex Mack.
I remember Alex Mack because I had a crush on Alex Mack. Oh, she was cute.
Yeah, Meredith played Alex Mack's sister in the show. As soon as she showed up on screen, it was like a massive memory came back of watching this episode the first time when it aired.
Right.
And going, oh my God, it's the sister from Alex Mack. I love Alex Mack. That's a great show. Oh my God.
I thought she seemed familiar. I didn't know why. I didn't even bother to look it up. I thought she seemed familiar. Yeah.
Yeah, so it was one of those things where it just like flooded back to my memory, and then I went on IMDb and I'm like, that's right, I did remember thinking this when I first watched the episode air back in 98.
Right.
It was weird. But yeah, like I said, like tying it into like an alien abduction story where she says she was just lying in bed, then there was a bright light, and she thought she was going to get probed and end up on Jerry Springer, but instead she's at this hunting grounds. And apparently, if you can survive 20 days, they will set you free.
Yeah, right.
And she's on day 18. I wish they'd gotten into this more.
Right.
In the episode. Like, I wish there was like a scene where someone was like, oh, hey, it's day 20. I'm ready to go. And then they just like execute him or something.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I don't know where they get the 20 days from.
Exactly. Instead, they kind of just throw it out there, and then Remy makes the argument, they're not going to let you go.
Right.
So let's go and take the war to them now. And Jenny kind of goes with it. Everybody else is kind of like, whatever, we're not doing that.
It is a stupid idea. If you're trying to stay hidden, to survive, that's probably the best thing to do rather than going and starting a war against them, because you don't know how many people they got there. It's like, just stay hidden if you're waiting your 20 days out. And our sliders too, like you're here for how long? Just wait the time out. You don't need to go and like when Maggie's like, the best offense is to what was something like, I forget how she put it, but it was like, what? That doesn't seem right. First rule of survival is offense or something like that. I'm like, no, I don't think that's right. I don't think so.
Well, I think the second rule of survival also is, not splitting up.
Yes, exactly.
Because they make the rookie horror movie mistake. And as soon as they're confronted with, I think it was Cryoptus.
Yeah.
Jenny just screams, quick, split up.
Right.
And she's immediately gunned down, and Colin is captured and taken away. So I'm like, yeah, that was a little cliche.
Well, here's the problem I have with that. Colin starts beating on Cryoptus pretty good. He's like a unstoppable beast. Colin is, he just seemed like a bull the way he came after him. Just charges him and starts pounding on him. He has Cryoptus down. Okay, Kyra comes around the corner, aims her gun at Colin, and he stops. Quinn was coming up behind Kyra, and he stops and runs and hides. He was coming up behind Kyra. Like, you can see it. He's coming up behind her. He's coming up to help Colin. Kyra steps out with her gun, and Quinn just takes off. He's like, oh, shit, I'm out of here. But it's like, he could have ambushed Kyra so easily right there and saved Colin, and they could have overtaken these two guys, I think, pretty easily, it seems like. So I was just like, what the hell, Quinn? Your brother just got captured. You're just going to stand from behind the fence and watch. Oh, well, man, that sucks. It's like, come on.
Yeah. It is a bit weird that he would just stay in the shadows like that.
Like, if you watch him in the background, it's just so odd to see because Quinn has a history now of running in and saving people. He's running towards Colin. Kyra steps out and he's like, oh, wait, what the hell? And he turns around and runs away. It's just an odd, it just stuck out to me.
It does seem like a plot contrivance to just get Colin captured, really.
Exactly.
Kyra gets involved in Colin's interrogation, and this kind of sets up like her mind reading abilities.
Right.
You know, they're not only trying to train them as lethal warriors, but they're trying to develop their mental skills as well. And for some reason, General Cronus doesn't know what the timer is, because he's asking Colin all about it. And I was like, you're a Cro-Mag. I'm pretty sure all Cro-Mags know what sliding is. Why are you asking this question? It was weird.
Well, yeah, and our reactions also had asked, the question as well in the email, like, how come these Cro-Mags don't know about Quinn and the plan to track Quinn going back home? Like, it just seems like they would know, because Cro-Mags can communicate, with FaceTime, and they tell each other, hey, let these humans go so we can track them.
Bizarre. It was, I didn't understand that part of the interrogation.
Now, like, I kind of reasoned that, well, maybe these Cro-Mags are not in the loop. They're far, they're only for training. They're training these Humags. That's where they are in this outpost, wherever it is. Maybe they just figure that, they're kept out of the loop. They didn't need to know. So it's sometimes you get those stories where you have like the group of soldiers who are cut off from everyone else because they don't really think much of them. So they don't keep in touch with them very much, and they barely get supplies and whatnot. And so maybe that's the kind of thing that's going on here. They're just sort of out of the loop of the whole Cro-Mag thing. They're just used. Oh, you guys just train them. We're on the front lines. You're just a trainer, basically. Maybe that's what. Yeah. Maybe that's why they didn't know about. The humans have timers. They can do sliding. Maybe that's why they didn't. I mean, it's an idea. The whole thing about these Cro-Mags not knowing about the Cro-Mag plan to track Quinn back home. Maybe the Cro-Mags aren't tracking Quinn now, because he got to the slide cage, he got to the slide cage and figured out, well, we can't get back to the homeworld because of the slide cage. The Cro-Mags know this now because they have that other Cro-Mag there with them in the slide cage. So maybe he's reported back to the Cro-Mag High Command saying, well, they're not getting back to the homeworld because of this, slide cage. So we don't need to track them anymore. I don't know. I'm trying to reason, I'm trying to reason. It's a possibility.
But did they just turn the tracker off or anything? Like,
maybe
we never saw it removed or anything.
Well, true. Yeah.
It's got to still be on Quinn somewhere.
Right. Well, maybe they're just abandoning that idea, though, of tracking him. So maybe that's why this post doesn't know anything about it. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Going further into it, of course, the whole purpose of this training ground is to sort of bring out the Cro-Mag side.
Right.
So what they start leaning towards is that maybe we can appeal to the human side as well. So Kyra's there, and she's talking with Colin, and he mentions mothers.
Right.
Because, of course, she tells him about coming from the breeder camp, and she doesn't quite understand what mother is. I think this is pretty much where it begins. Like, he starts appealing to her human side. She shuts off the force field and sort of attacks him at one point. But then she forgets to turn it back on. Like Cryoptus comes in, and then they start getting into a bit of an argument, and then they just leave the room.
Yes.
And I was like, what?
Yeah.
Because later, they cut to another scene. She's out on the streets, and I was like, what happened to Colin? Like, did he escape or something like that? I mean, it comes back around, and he sort of sets a trap for Cryoptus. Yep. But yeah, it was weird editing there. I was just like, seriously, like.
Yeah, it was odd.
She's forgot to turn that back on, and then he sort of stepped out briefly, and I was like, what's going on here? I don't know. It was weird.
Speaking of him stepping out and using the Swiss Army knife, do Swiss Army knives come with a toothpick?
I guess so.
I never thought that they did. Like, I was just like, that's odd. Like, why does he have a toothpick in the Swiss Army knife? Maybe they do. I mean, I had types of Swiss Army knives, not an official one, but like, little knockoffs here and there. And I was just like, why is there a toothpick in the Swiss Army knife? And I don't know. I'm wondering. Maybe someone knows out there. I'm just wondering.
Well, I've got a Swiss Army knife.
Is there a toothpick in it?
And there's no toothpick on it. Mine has a long blade and a short blade and a bottle opener and a corkscrew.
Well, there you go. They're all conductive, so you couldn't get out of those Cro-Mag cuffs without a piece of wood.
So, yeah. I don't know. It was just weird. But at least I think Colin was thinking on his feet, rather than sort of jumping out and then doing a run for it.
Yeah.
He kind of just lays back and pretends like he doesn't know what's going on. So when Cryoptus comes in, he can jump out and then activate the shield again.
Yeah.
and then escape. So at least there's nobody on his tail while he's trying to escape. The thing that really threw me off, though, was the terrible acting he did once he had escaped, because he had no idea where they were, yet somehow he can get to them by using a compass. Like, what's that? What help is that compass going to be if you don't know where they are?
Exactly. It
was because he sort of flings his head around as if like, oh, are they chasing me? I don't know. And then he just weirdly walks away, and I was just like, what? This is just terrible acting.
Maybe he looked around and realized, you know what? I think I need to be at the Chandler Hotel. That's where we always go. I should go there.
Yes, exactly. Because they're in because the place looks like it's been demolitioned. Yes. And I just suddenly became very much aware that this demolition zone was the Chandler Hotel set. It was so weird. Yeah. Still getting their money's worth out of that hotel set.
Well, when they go to rescue Colin, they end up capturing Kyra. But, Remy gets hit by this energy weapon. But when he gets hit, did you notice the weird way Remy was shooting his gun?
No. What? Was he doing something strange with it?
It was weird because they're like machine guns or whatever it was. He was shooting it one-handed. He had it in one hand, in his right hand, and his other hand was down by his side where he would eventually get hit with the energy weapon. When I was watching it just looked odd to me because his left hand was not holding the gun how normally you would hold a gun, of that size together with two hands. He was shooting it one-handed, his other hand was off to the side. It just looked odd, and then he gets shot in the exact area where his hand was. I'm wondering if that was a production thing where he had to, I don't know, press something to make it explode there on his. It was weird. I don't know how it works.
Right.
But it was very odd.
If he had the button, then he could be prepared for when it goes off.
Exactly. So I was just like, that's odd the way he's holding the gun there, because it's just one-handed and he's shooting. His left hand was it was very odd looking to me.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised because
this is Sliders. So
I guess yeah. If he had both hands around his front holding the gun or something, maybe you wouldn't see it as well,
right.
Or the Cro-Mag wouldn't get a clear enough shot, so he had to kind of be exposed or something, so it just ended up looking weird. Yeah. I don't know. I'm going to have to go back and look at it.
It's just strange. Well, anyway, he gets shot, and now the energy weapon is killing him, not just with the blast, but with the radiation from the actual hit of the energy weapon.
Oh, yeah. When this started coming up, he was slowly dying of radiation poisoning.
Did you think he was going to die?
No. No. Immediately, I was like, okay, they're finally going to appeal to Kyra's humanity, and she's going to save him. And they play it right up to the point where he dies. He walks into the light. Right. It goes to white, bright light, cut to commercial, come back from commercial, and he's being healed. And I'm like, yep, I knew it. Yep. Yeah. Kyra's healing him. He's not dead.
Yeah, it was a bit off. I was like, ugh, whatever.
Yeah, that is not going to be the way Remy's going to be taken out of this show.
Definitely not. They would have built it up a lot more than just that.
And, it's the whole thing, too, where Kyra's like, oh, I can't leave with you. I can go back and talk to Cryoptus, because I don't think there's any other human Cro-Mag hybrids here. Exactly. We haven't seen any anyway. So exactly. He's the only one. And an interesting turn. Rather than her going to him and saying, hey, look, we don't have to embrace just our Cro-Mag side, he doesn't really take kindly to it and kills her. Yep. That's full on, man. That's a bold choice. Yeah. I kind of liked it.
He embraces his Cro-Mag side as opposed to the human side.
I did think the farewell between Kyra and Quinn was...
Oh, where she touches him?
A bit weird. Yeah.
She wants to...
I don't get it.
What'd she say? It was odd dialogue too. I feel the desire to touch you. I was like, what? Where'd that come from? It's not it's not like something that they set up that you don't touch humans or anything like that. It just seemed really out of place for her to say that. And he's like, whoa, we just don't touch anybody. Oh, go ahead. Why not?
And I don't know if it was Jerry O'Connell not giving a crap in that scene. Right. But they also share a hug. And it was kind of like, yeah, pat on the back, okay, with hugs.
Yeah.
Kind of, and I was like, that was just weird. Was it that Quinn didn't want to hug her, or was it that Jerry O'Connell was just like, this scene is stupid? and not giving a crap while he's doing it. It was off.
Yeah.
The whole thing was off. But I praise them for killing her at the end. That was very bold. And it was an alright episode. I kind of wish they didn't kill off the Jenny character so quickly either, because like I said, I recognize the actress from Alex Mack.
Yeah.
So when they killed her off as well, I was like, whoa, like she was in the like 2 scenes and they killed her.
Yeah.
Weird, but
I don't know. It was kind of a meh episode for me. Like, I just, we had a whole bunch of characters I didn't really care about. All the supporting humans were just like, whatever, So, yeah. Nothing, like, this is an episode that I don't need to ever watch again.
I'm kind of, I'm like on the okay. So it was a fine, whatever.
Colin.
Oh, Colin, thank God. How did you escape?
I used that trick I saw in that Penn and Teller special in the last world.
Hello again. Colin.
Hello. Is she supposed to be here?
Quinn and Maggie snatched her to try to get her to take us to you. She's part of the team now.
15 minutes.
Why don't you come with us?
There's someone here. I have to show him what you've shown me. That we cannot deny half of who we are.
Do you think he'll understand?
I don't know, but I have to try. In a way, he is my family. I desire to touch you.
Whoa, whoa, whoa. We don't just touch anyone.
But I see in your eyes that you will allow it.
The eyes never lie.
All right, well, let's get into some messages in time.
All right, so in this episode, for this one, The Dying Fields, people were not liking Cleavant's death scene. They said it was melodramatic, it was cheesy, it didn't work. And
not the best acting we've seen out of Cleavant.
What was he saying? Like, I can make it to the stage. I can make it there, Just give me, I just need. And it's like, no, oh God. Then someone asked, and there was a funny little thing they posted here. They said, why is it always the slider with the timer that gets captured? You'd think they had to, suss this out by now. And then they wrote a little script here. It said, Quinn says, come on, Remy, it's your turn. Remy says, oh, no, man, I had it last week. I got grabbed by the Cro-Mags. Give it to Maggie. Maggie says, what? And risk getting my eyes fried again? Give it to Colin. Colin's, duh, okay. I liked it. I thought, all right. Nicely done.
That's good.
Let's see. People really like the Hugh-Mags idea and explaining what the camps were for, because we wondered why they were there. So why do they have these breeding camps? And then someone said, where are the female Cro-Mags? And people said, well, they died because of pregnancy. But, we've never seen, female Cro-Mags. And then one guy said, well, how do you know? How do you know we haven't seen female Cro-Mags? Maybe all these Cro-Mags we met, maybe some of them are female. They're just bald and gruff and angry, Maybe the females and the males look the same. We don't know. They never really specified. Yeah. So yeah, that's just a little bit for that episode. A little bit less for California Reich. Basically, it was a lot of stuff about Hitler. Everything they were discussing was about Hitler because of the obvious parallels, Yeah. Someone pointed out, though, that was pretty cool. Hitler's paternal grandfather's name, I think it was. It says grandmother there, but I think it was grandfather is what they said, was Schicklgruber. So maybe they took the name from that, from his paternal grandfather, which I thought was kind of neat, Schick, and Schicklgruber. There was a whole thread about would you kill Hitler if you went back, and people argued both sides of it. Like, it was a long discussion. People have had this discussion for, years and years, and they said, no, I wouldn't kill him because then you might not exist then because you would change things, someone else might take his place. Maybe they would make different decisions. Maybe Germany would win this time because Hitler, didn't do something perfectly and this other person did. So it was basically a big time travel discussion, talking about going back, killing Hitler, killing your own grandfather, the paradoxes that result from it. It was an interesting read, but it's all been done before.
Yeah.
Let's see. And they said they were discussing why this episode didn't need a Hitler in it, because someone was saying this would have worked better if there was a Hitler in their past. But then people were like, no, this is more effective without Hitler in it, because this is a world that, like you said, doesn't really learn from their mistakes, and they discover a whole new level of hate without Hitler. It comes from somewhere else. So it was is interesting. Interesting.
Exactly. I think that's the main side of the argument is like, sure, Hitler did terrible things, but since he did do them, then we know the outcomes of it, so we can make sure it's never going to happen again.
Right.
Exactly. It's like you said. These kind of arguments go on and on and on.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And there's
been
many,
around
many
forever.
sides to
It'll
them.
be around
Yeah.
forever.
So, messages from Earth Prime. Some people have gone over and left us a review on iTunes.
Yes, we appreciate that.
Yeah.
We'll point out a couple here. So, the ever prolific iReactions gave us a typical iReactions review. So there's a lot. It's a very good review. There's like a ton of stuff in here, talking about how we use certain type of equipment, it gives it crisp and clear recordings, good editing. He says about incorporating the message in time is great to see how people reacted back then. So it gives you a sense of what was going on, at the time this aired. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah. We have to credit our buddy on Twitter, Open Idri.
Oh, yes.
For putting us onto those forums.
Exactly. Definitely appreciate that. He also mentions the other Sliders podcast, Sliders Cast. So there's a lot of Sliders content out there suddenly in the last couple of years, which is kind of cool. It's kind of neat that we got, all the Sliders stuff. He mentions the Sliders Cast, and he compares us to them as being the professional news network report on Sliders, polished and refined, painstakingly designed and meticulously calculated. I like that. I like being that,
Oh, yeah, I don't mind being that. I don't know how accurate it is.
Right. And then he says the Sliders Cast is more the equivalent of sitting around with your friends, listening to them talk about, your favorite, or terrible TV shows. So, he's, like he says, neither one is competing. They're not trying to be better than each other. It's just there's two different styles of delivery. So I like being like the Walter Cronkite version.
Yeah, we try,
That's the way it was,
Yeah, I think we always talked about that. Like when we do it, we want to make sure we give good quality audio. We want to make sure that we have good, decent, in-depth discussion, staying on topic, It's kind of what you and I pride ourselves on. So
yeah, definitely.
I'm glad that iReactions has picked up on that and appreciates us for it.
Yeah. And then we also got a review from Nikki. Thank you, Nikki. You see hers here. She says that it's Hanging with Friends. This podcast is a lighthearted review of a favorite television show. She likes that the show has structure, but still manages to maintain a level of informality. Anyone listening gets the impression of hanging out with friends to relive old times. So we appreciate that. So thank you much, guys.
Nikki.
And if anybody else wants to leave a review, please do, and we'll get them on here in Messages from Earth Prime.
All right, so next week, 2 more episodes. We'll be discussing Lipschitz Live.
Mm-hmm. Which I do remember.
Yeah, I kind of remember that one too.
I remember the title, and I remember one of the actors, but that's about it.
And Mother and Child as well, which I also have a feeling I know what episode it is.
I don't remember that one, and like Vudu, I bought season 4 on Vudu so I can, download it onto the iPad and, watch on the go or whatever. For some reason, Mother and Child is available to watch on the computer, on your set-top boxes, but not on my iPad. I went to go download it and said, this episode is not available for iOS. I'm like, what? Why not?
That's bizarre. It's like how Netflix is just randomly missing 2 episodes from season 1.
Exactly.
For no reason.
I wrote to Vudu because they said you can contact customer support. Maybe it's just a mistake in their, encoding or something like that, and they just didn't encode it right. So hopefully they'll clear that up so I can continue watching on the go.
Win.
All right. Well, that is it for this episode of the Rewatch Podcast. You can keep up with listener interaction by liking our Facebook page at facebook.com/rewatchpodcast and follow the show on Twitter at rewatchpod. You can visit our webpage at rewatchpodcast.podomatic.com, which has some of our favorite links there, such as dimensionofcontinuity.com, which is Temporal Flux's website, earthprime.com, which is Matt Hutt, if I believe, does the reviews over there, and the active forum over at sliders.tv.
And remember, as always, you can write us an email or record a voice message and send it over to the rewatchpodcast@gmail.com. Also, if you've enjoyed the show, please consider giving us a rate and review on iTunes, because we'd love to hear from you guys. We, whenever we hear from you, whether it be an email. I don't think we've never actually received a voice message before, but feel free to record your voice and send it on over, and we stick it all in our Messages from Earth Prime segment, and we get your input on the show. So
Definitely.
thank you in advance for getting in touch or giving us a rating review. We appreciate it.
Yep.
All right, well, thank you for joining me, Tom.
Well, of course.
And I will just say until next time, this is really an ingenious little tool.
We gotta slide.
The Rewatch podcast is not associated with NBC Universal, St. Clair Entertainment, Fox, or Sci-Fi Channel. The use of any and all copyrighted material is only for parody, news analysis, critique, or educational purposes, as provided in United States Code Title 17, aka Fair Use. Music provided by Kevin MacLeod at incompetech.com. Copyright 2015, The Rewatch Podcast.
Slide.